Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're ready to start with the next session. As you see, the name cards are here. I see people are in the room already. Ambassador from Pakistan is here. Chair from the Silk Road Fund. As you can see we're all here. Now, so this afternoon we are discussing with this esteemed panel the opportunities along the Silk Road, if you like. Last year there had been 10 years of the Belt and Road Initiative, and there were a number of countries that have been very strong partners with China from the first hour. I think we can count Pakistan in that. Countries that build big railroads like Laos, the Silk Road Fund that was set up to invest along the road there. Other partners from Hong Kong, financial institutions that are keen. And we have Dr. Fofana, our regional director for Africa, who is representing quite a few countries who have been key partners with China as well. So we have an excellent panel. And online, we have Sir Ili Aloko as well, the head of investments and business development of the Africa Finance Corporation. Aloko, can you hear us?
I can hear you perfectly. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So we have a great panel here to discuss, but let me first maybe give you a little introduction. Yua, can you put on the slides? Do we have a clicker? So the session is called Financing a Greener Future. That is quite a general one. Put on the first slide, yes. But what we're really talking about today in this session, because indeed most sessions in the Global Green Growth Week speak about financing a greener future, but here we'll particularly focus on the opportunities that are under the fairly broad umbrella. I'm trying to get the slide version up, isn't it? Yes, the presentation version. Perfect. It's trying. Technology works with us. So far it isn't. I just was going to very quickly show you a few slides to introduce the subject, and obviously we're struggling with technology for right now.
Technical problem.
Yes. So it's about the Green Belt and Road Initiative. And last year, when the 10 years were coming up, what we did as GGI, collaborating with the BAU Forum for Asia, was to assess how many of our member countries had actually participated in the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, and what share of those projects were green. Now, I don't know if you have an idea what that would be. I think in the publicity, of course, initially, we've seen quite a bit of publicity about very large thermal energy projects, like in Pakistan. So that was, I think, the impression that many people had. But when we did this survey, we were pleased to see that not only a very large number of GGI member and partner countries were actively participating in the BRI, but there were about 24 countries who gave us data, and 18 of those countries had received about $150 billion in Chinese financing, roughly under the umbrella of the Belt and Road Initiative, a very large amount. And when we looked how much of that could be called green, it turned out that as much as at least a quarter was what we would call dark green, very clearly green, and another 7 was probably green as well. So meaning about as much as a third of those projects were green, definitely including things like the Green Railroad in Laos, it's an electric railway, some renewable energy projects as well. So that was actually a surprisingly high share already. And then when we asked countries, are you interested in more green projects in the BRI in future? a very large number of them said yes. And we know also from participating in BRI summits that also in China, there's an interest in more green projects. And frankly, we know that China has a huge lead in some key green technologies. And yes, after some very large projects during the first 10 years of BRI, from the Chinese side as well, there's more interest in more smaller, beautiful projects. And the beautiful, we understand, is also a way of including greener projects as well. So I think there is both a supply and demand for more of those green projects. So that is really what we were interested in from GGI. And we indeed, talking to our member states, found a number of quotes. You see here, Madame Tutevon on the screen, who indeed made strong statements about the interest in developing green projects in the future. We here had ministers from Laos, from Colombia and Ethiopia, as part of a session we had with the Bioforum for Asia looking forward. Now, here I don't have an opportunity to go in all the slides, but there is a full set of slides, I think 47 or so of them in the meeting folder. So if you want to go through a bit more detail, you can see there at ease at your own comfort in a bit more detail. Here I'll just show you a few of them. There's also a longer document in the meeting folder that describes in more detail what we've done. Here you see a number of the partners on the Chinese side that we've been engaging with, including very much the Silk Road Fund that we signed an MOU with a little while ago after an exploratory visit in January of this year to Beijing. We found there was quite a bit of interest. I recognize that lady, myself. We signed an MOU there, and we found quite a few other partners as well. This is still some photos from very recent, your 10-year anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Participation as well. But we found that also the China International Development Cooperation Agency is quite interested in these kind of projects. MCDF, another partner, China Association for Promotion of International Agriculture Cooperation. Many of these partners in China are interested and not always known in our GGI member countries, or not always with the right operational connections. So that is kind of the opportunity for GGI to help our members advance good projects that the partners roughly under the umbrella of the BRI have an interest in. And that's what we'll explore here today. Behind this, you'll see that there are actually quite a few project pipeline that's coming up from the countries, like how to build on this Lao-China railway. Could there be scope for some special economic zones, for instance, that focus on agricultural exports from Laos to China? Under what conditions are those attractive? And indeed, something similar is happening in Uzbekistan as well, where the Uzbek government really wants to see investments in special economic zones around agriculture. At GGI, we work quite a bit on climate smart agriculture, and we see opportunities here on both sides. That's pretty much my introduction. I'll stop talking here. There are many more slides, but we'll let you look at those at your leisure. So, Yuan, we can take off the slides. And then after this, I will happily function as a moderator and ask our panel to share your insights. So can I start with Madame Jun Zhu, the chairwoman of the Silk Road Fund, and begin to ask you, how important is it to see project preparation and development for funding projects? How could GGI add value to the kind of projects that you're interested in?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Frank. Thanks for your introduction first. I'm glad to see some old pictures there. Actually, we have very good cooperation and momentum with the GGI. As you mentioned, that the Belt and Road Initiative was raised 10 years ago, and our fund, the Silk Road Fund, just celebrated our 10th anniversary last week or 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And actually, for these recent years, we focused very much on the green investments. And the project's preparation and development are quite crucial for the funding decision. Usually, an investment decision sometimes takes months or even years. And for us, we usually, during the preparation and development period, we usually view or assess the project from two levels. One is from the macro level. We will see whether the host countries, the investee countries, whether have very clear policy targets for the energy transition, for the climate change. And at the same time, whether they have the explicit roadmap to net zero, and whether they have feasible policy framework on energy transition. It's quite important because our traditional investment area is the energy resources and infrastructure. And all of these kind of policy framework would matter our investments. At the same time, we usually work with the investee countries or the partners on incentives to encourage the markets, all the market participants to work on the energy transition, on the climate change. And at the same time, from the macro level, we think there is some challenges for host countries, that is the standards or taxonomies on the climate change. And this needs some time, maybe years of efforts. And we work very closely with international organizations, also with GGGI and host countries to try to have very clear or clarified standards on the climate change. And from the micro level for the project investments, we will see actually whether the investment is in line with the impact investment principles and including the ESG targets. And usually there is a saying that because our traditional investment is on infrastructure, but recently with the ESG standards integrated into our investment decision, we also look at some area in social infrastructure, like consumer industry, wealth, healthcare, education, and others. And in this area, maybe the profit would not be so high, but it is related to the people's daily life, and it's something related to the externalities and impact. So this is the area that we keep very much closely monitored. And the second point on the micro level is that we usually work with reliable partners in the Belt and Road countries, because usually for the Belt and Road countries, the social infrastructure and the market mechanism is relatively weak. There are some kind of risks. So we would like to work together with MDBs, with IOs, and with some international financial institutions to check with the local authorities on the investments. The micro level, the third bullet on the micro level is, of course, as a equity investment institution, we also look at financial indicators. And to some extent, we have to strike a balance between the impact investments and the financial returns. We don't seek the maximum profits, but we have to keep our financial sustainability at the same time. So maybe for some investments for the traditional or pure commercial institution, they will not go, but we will think about it. If we can try to keep the balance between the strategy and the financial indicators, then we will try to help the host countries to do that. And finally, to deal with the climate change, not only the Belt and Road countries, but also developed countries like US, European countries, as well as big countries like China, we have to face the climate change risks. So the risk alleviation is quite also important for us. So in this area, we work together with the host countries on the standards I mentioned just now, and work together with the IOs and on the taxonomy to try to set up the standards, maybe not internationally, but which is suitable for the host countries to do something to deal with the climate change. And regarding to what the GGGI can do, I think GGGI is quite helpful and constructive in this area in the past years. From our experience, I think the networking is the most important assets of the GGGI. You have 70 members, 45 country offices. So that's a huge assets for the GGGI and for the Belt and Road countries, because all of these countries, they have relatively weak market mechanism and weak infrastructure. An ecosystem based on government authorities, on financial institutions, on companies is very important to the investors. And we work together with the GGGI to rely heavily on your influence in this area. And the second importance of the GGGI is that information sharing. I think the information sharing is very important for the investors. Like Frank mentioned just now, the survey on the Belt and Road countries last year or earlier this year is very meaningful to us. We can see for all of these countries, they have different types of risks and they have different types of resources or comparative advantages. And it is very helpful or constructive to our investment decision. And at the same time, I know that the GGGI also has done a lot in the capacity building on climate change. And this is what we value very heavily in this area. And I think we can work together in the future on this area to try to help the Belt and Road countries to build their capacity on climate change. And as Frank demonstrated just now, there was a picture that between Frank and myself, that was in March in Boao. We signed an MOU, the Silk Road Fund and the GGGI to cooperate in the future. And I hope that in the future, we can work more closely and more deeply on all of this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a comprehensive answer. Maybe a short answer. Like, we meet with ADB and some other banks, and their board has set like a target, like in the coming years, we want at least 50% to be green. Have you set a similar target for the Silk Road Fund?
Actually, not the quantity, how to say, quantitative indicators, but we seek to invest majority of our projects would be green. And actually for the non-green, even for the brown projects, usually we will say no. So in this sense, maybe 80% or 90% of our investments would be green.
Excellent.
Of course, it depends on the definition of the green.
Yes.
Green, it's difficult. But anyway, there is some kind of energy transition. Yeah. So for the transition projects, we think it's also falls into the territory of green.
Well, indeed, we could have a longer discussion on that. And indeed, in our survey, we called it dark green and light green to have some distinction. But, you know, the majority, you said not quantitative, majority I usually would count as 50+%. And you even said 80 or 90. I think that's a high level of ambition for dark or light green. So thank you for sharing that. So maybe if you don't mind, if we can turn to Ambassador Munir. You know, Pakistan has been one of the key partners for the Belt and Road Initiative. And of course, you know that initially, certainly not all projects were green. There have also been issues of high levels of debt, fairly or unfairly. I think there's a lot of discussion around that. So could you comment a bit about maybe both Pakistan's experience to date and your interest or perspective for the next 10 years?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. And first of all, let me begin by, of course, thanking you. But also, when I was looking at the slides that you were showing, and you said 18 countries had responded in detail. I don't know whether Pakistan was part of the 18.
No,
it wasn't. But just to let you know that we have quite a few green projects, which includes wind power projects, which includes solar projects, and with significant BRI investments in that. And of course, the China-Pakistan economic corridor, that is one of the flagship projects of BRI. It's I could even dare to say that that's where BRI began. And we have hydropower projects under that as well, which are of course all green. So that is definitely there. The portfolio is there, and it is increasing. And as you just said, it's just that there could be shades of green there, but I think light green or dark green projects, both of them, are increasing in that portfolio, and that's the positive thing. Some of those projects are, of course, pure infrastructure projects, which are like roads, highways. That, I guess, it's very difficult to call them green in that sense. But with the increasing portfolio, and for the second question is on whether we are interested or not. Of course, I think that goes without saying. All developing countries are interested. This is, and I, in my should I say spare time, I also do some UNFCCC work, and I know that climate finance is the topic right now, and in COP29 as well, it's called Finance COP. And so all developing countries are looking for this kind of green financing. And the fact that GGGI, with support and with encouragement of its member states, is going into that, and it's going to especially make BRI green. That's a very, very positive thing. And that is something, that is an opportunity that Pakistan would really look forward to working with. We have, for example, the ambition that we have currently is to have 30% of our energy needs by 2030 and converted to renewable. And that is the kind of thing that we would need. Then we also have the EV deadline of 2030. We want 50% of our vehicles to be EV, which is a very, very ambitious target. But I think the good thing is, for developing countries, if you have high ambition, that makes you work harder. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. Have the ambition high, work with partners like BRI, partners like GGGI, other financial institutions, to make sure that we have the financing available, and we have developed the infrastructure for those investments to become profitable as well. So that's why we are looking for private investors as well into these projects. I mean, we are sitting in Korea, and Korea is one of those countries which is investing heavily in our hydropower projects. So that is also, it's not under BRI, but it's a green project. So all in all, really look forward to working with BRI and with GGI. And the fact that BRI has become a partner of BRI, trying to leverage both the financial as well as the technical capacity that China has into this is something that is very encouraging for us, and we really look forward to working with that.
Thank you for those comments. And on the complicated topic of indebtedness, I know the critics of BRI point out high levels of debt. I would also like to point out that most countries, like if we take Africa, there's high levels of debt, but the large majority of those debts are not owed to China. They're owed to the World Bank and to other Western donors as well. And yes, debt relief is also a complicated topic, but we definitely have noticed China has been on the forefront of debt relief as well. So it's a complicated topic. So do you care to comment on that from Pakistan's perspective?
Yes, I think it's when we when we look at the kind of narrative around BRI and debt, it's it is. I mean, there is a kind of a strategic political background to that, and you have to keep that in mind while discussing that. So there are issues of debt. I mean, countries like Pakistan are heavily indebted countries. But as you yourself said, most of our debts are with multilateral development banks. It's with IMF primarily, and with some of the Western donors. So China is a creditor as well. But I don't think categorizing BRI as unfairly increasing indebtedness of countries, of developing countries, would be fair. I think that would be a bit of an exaggeration. But the narrative, especially in the Western media, is being developed, and that I think is more, that's more to do with strategic reasons than some of the realities.
Thank you. We realize it's complicated, but thank you for those comments. Maybe we can shift to Madame Uttavon, and indeed you have what you know, Ambassador Mooney was saying, roads are not as easy to qualify as green, but of course, if it's a railway and it's an electric railway, then we would qualify that as a green investment. And there have been some very large of those projects under the BRI as well. But with you, I know DJI has been exploring how can Laos build on that big investment to really capitalize on such an investment and, for instance, see more agricultural exports to China. Could you comment on the opportunities and the challenges that you see in that area?
Thank you very much, Dr. Frank Wisberman. Thank you very much, DG Frank, for the introduction. And Laos is one of the countries that has, a great opportunity to participate in the BRI forum, and we have shared and have learned a lot from the forum. Thank you also for very good question regarding the Belt and Road Initiative in our country, which are the one of very big, or we call mega project, is Lao-China Railway. So we are very grateful to Chinese government for support this infrastructure. Of course, Lao-China Railway has transformed Lao and PDR from a landlocked to a land link. As you mentioned, Dr. Frank, that this is, electric, train rail and railway. So this is very useful. And of course, this development has, significantly contributed to our development, especially, the implementation of this existing 5 years plan. And of course, they improve the connectivity, not only to China, but also, to our regional, for example, Thailand, and also, beyond. And recently, a cargo from Malaysia arrived in Vientiane capital, and this indicating that increased regional trade is becoming a reality. And of course, you may be aware that this year Laos has just successfully completed, as a chairmanship of ASEAN, and we honored to have a lot of, high-ranking or leaders from ASEAN and the supporting countries, and as well as as 2024 is Lao tourist years, and we also with Lao-China Railway, we have a lot of tourists come and visited in our country. We believe that the railway can accelerate the implementation of our existing 5 years plan, the 9 plan, as well as the upcoming 10 plan, which extensively embeds green ambition and also, opening the new avenues for a greener and sustainable growth. Our government anticipates that the railway will even enhance more trade and tourism and contributing to our economic growth as well as sustainability in our country. And we are also exploring, the green opportunity that linked to the Lao-China Railway. And with access to this, I would mega project or Chinese, and of course the railway, help us to access to very big market in China and regional markets. And we do expect that the exports will be increased with this, collaboration and with this, railway. Particularly, we do expect, as Dr. Frank mentioned, that, the agricultural products would be increased and significantly, and will also, generate more revenue for the countries as well as for our people, because more than 70% are farmers and, are living in rural areas. And as you are aware, the agriculture is our cornerstone of our economy. So with focusing on the variety as well as quality products to be able to supply in our country, as well as to increase the number of exports to, of course, big market like China's and our other countries. And as demand for sustainable agricultural products grows in our neighboring countries, so with Lao-China Railway, we do hope that we would have more and variety products. Of course, with support from GGGI, who, supported us, to develop a green growth strategy and also help us to incorporate to our national development plan. So we do hope that GGGI and, our GGGI member countries would continue helping us to have more and variety and quality agricultural products. And this also underscores that the need for stronger support, as I mentioned earlier, for sustainable agricultural product. Since, in many countries like in Laos, we have negative impact from climate change, heavy flooding in our countries. So the support to have early warning system, the support to have, the development of resilience in our countries would be very important to have, agricultural or sustainable agricultural development or practices in our country, as well as highlighting, the initiative that linked to sustainable development through Lao-China Railway. And you may aware the project led by the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, and of course, with very effective support from GGGI, now is in the final stage of the development, and of course, with a proposal submitted to Australian government, the Center for International Agriculture Research, which aim to create policy recommendation that enhance sustainable agricultural development and practices in our country. And of course, to facilitate the export to China via, Lao-China Railway. And of course, with this finding and recommendation, we do hope that, GGGI could, help us mobilize resources, to build capacity as well as, to have more greener projects to implement and support the implementation of our 5 year plan. So now we are in the nearly final stage of the implementation of the 9 plan. And of course, at the same time, we are now preparing the 10 plan, and we do looking forward to have more and variety greener projects to be implemented in our country. The project that's supported from GGI is to cost approximately 1 million Australian dollar, and will involve, key partners in the implementation stage, especially the MAF, Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, as well as the National University of Laos, and also the other related stakeholders. And of course, our government will leverage the opportunities presented by railway to balance national green growth strategy. And of course, in our 9 plans, we try to balance, as you mentioned, the development in Laos, and also with the upcoming, the 10 plan will continue to balance between, the economic development as well as, the human capital development, especially linked to natural resource, management and environmental preservation. So we really looking forward to have, your further, Dr. Frank, GGI and our member states to help us, to strengthen our collaboration, cooperation, to have more greener projects. As you mentioned, how many percentage? So the number is increasing in our country. And, the screening or selecting of the project is based on also one of the criteria is, based on the greener criteria. So thank you very much for this opportunity to join this important session.
Thank you. Also a comprehensive answer, and it's good to see that you see, that you're optimistic about the opportunities created by the railway. But of course, a strong focus in Laos on agriculture. So I just wanted to have maybe a short answer from Madam Zhu. You mentioned that you've expanded from infrastructure to healthcare and so on. You didn't mention agriculture. Is that an opportunity as well?
We tried several times in agriculture, but we need some more experts.
Okay.
Maybe from the assistance of this GGI.
Yes. Well, those are indeed quite important bridges that I think we're interested in building. We'll have others. We'll have later Dr. Fofana from GGI and Mr. Aloko from AFC as well. I think all of them are likely going to talk about agriculture. So this is an important topic. But maybe first, if I can turn to Mr. Patrick Lau, you're from Hong Kong Trade and Development Commission. We don't know you so well, so maybe just for the audience, what it is that your role is. I know you want to make deals between investors and project developers. I'm also keen to hear if green is important for Hong Kong Trade and Development Commission. Can you comment?
Absolutely. Thank you, Frank. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm from the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, which is a public organization established in 1966 to promote Hong Kong's trade. And Hong Kong, of course, we all know, has always been the international financial center, trading center, with very strong professional services and with very strong industry sectors. It has functioned effectively as a connector of opportunities for the region. So at the HKDDC, we organize a lot of trade events, including trade fairs and international conferences, to serve as the platform to gather world leaders and particularly business leaders together to discuss opportunities and form business alliances and form actual business deals. So, for example, we have recently, last month, done our Belt and Road Summit, which is the 9th year that we have done it. We've done it every year. This 9th edition attracted more than 6,000 delegates in person from 70 countries and regions. And they have come to discuss Belt and Road Initiative, And this is a capacity building platform, as well as thought leadership, sharing of ideas, obviously also for networking. And at the same time, the participants coming from those 70 countries and regions have brought along their projects that they want to find investors or business partners to our platform, to our events effectively, and try to find that partners. And what we do for them as Hong Kong is a deal maker, has always been, is we use the Hong Kong ecosystem, we use the ecosystem of our events to match out different parties to try to materialize those deals. And our recent focus is indeed green growth. And so the last edition of the Belt and Road Summit, we introduced a green chapter where we focus a lot more on green projects. We use a variety of format in that events. So the event itself, the exhibition alongside, there will be roundtables, closed door roundtables. There will be a project pitching session, which I know that Mr. Ali in fact participated with his project. And so all these methods to facilitate the deals. And very importantly, I think after the event, our team will continue to follow up. It's a year-round exercise of following up. The HKTDC, we have 50 offices around the world, and our colleagues, maybe about 1,000 plus, have accumulated very good network across the world along the different trades and different industries, and they are good connectors as well. So we use them during the year to continue to facilitate those deals and try to introduce new angles and introduce new opportunities to make those deals happen. I think we had the function of channeling important attention and capital into green deals in particular, as versus other type of deals. And finally, we also bring Hong Kong businesses out to different countries to do exchange, bilateral exchange, multilateral exchange, to stage Hong Kong pavilions in other countries, trade fairs and events. And so through all this three-prong approach, we get the deals to happen. So I think in the interest of time, let me just quote one example of a recent deal, which I thought is interesting. It's the Indonesian relocation of their capital city from Jakarta to an island called Kalimantan. So it's a huge project. So they have been pitching this project at our Belt and Road Summit for years. In fact, President Jokowi himself attended the 2020 edition of the Belt and Road Summit to speak about it. And there are different ministers, different business leaders that propose projects. In the most recent edition, we have seen, we celebrated the completion of a couple of deals, which are interesting, small deals, but one on affordable housing in the new capital city, because the civil servants, the well-paid ones, will have government hostels, but there are other civil servants who need affordable housing, who moved to the new capital city. And the second project that we facilitated was sustainable farming, because a new population needs to eat in the new capital city. So it's a chicken farm with sustainable practice. So we see that by us putting in the effort to do deal making, we can actually pivot more deals to greener deals and socially impactful deals. And so we hope to use this platform to find more partners, and hopefully GGGI will be one of our strong partners going forward, and more partners to bring projects or to bring investors and business partners to our platforms, to use Hong Kong to get more of the deals done, and to get the green agenda on top of the trade and investment industry. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And yes, the Indonesian government says their new capital will be a green city.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see that happen. Now, you already introduced Mr. Ile Aloko, who was indeed in Hong Kong at your latest version of that Belt and Road Summit. Can we turn to you, Ile? And you have set up successfully the Infrastructure Climate Resilient Fund, and with support from GCF already. And I know you're looking for additional financing. So yeah, you can tell us whether indeed the Hong Kong platform was helpful to you, or more generally, how you're looking for blended finance or finance opportunities from the kind of partners that we have around the table here. Eli, can I hand it over to you?
Sure. No, thank you, Frank. And, would have loved to be with you, but I couldn't due to some constraints. But glad I could connect. No, indeed, from all the valuable insights that were discussed, blended finance today is a very hot topic because we see two trends as Africa Finance Corporation. I believe on the panel we've already mentioned the limited ability of governments to continue to raise debt to fund infrastructure. But at the same time, when we look at the pools of capital with institutional investors, sovereign strategic investors, pension funds, we see a unique opportunity because there are trillions that are seated there looking for opportunities. But the challenge is how to de-risk these opportunities in a manner that they can have the risk-adjusted returns they're looking for. That's why, as AFC, when we were considering to manage third-party capital in addition to our balance sheet, that is now roughly about $13 billion as an investment-grade institution, we decided to create an infrastructure climate resilient fund. And we're very happy to partner with GGI in that journey, from the stage where we designed the investment vehicle with 2 tiers of capital, with a large first loss of $240 million that the GCF committed to this fund to tackle particularly resilient infrastructure across transport, logistics, industrial parks, power and renewables. And that was very instrumental. So it was also interesting as we look forward to partner with more Asian investors, particularly in the context of the Belt and Road Initiative. We've had the pleasure of engaging some partners, some of which are on the table, such as the Silk Road Fund, or investors such as the Hong Kong Monetary Authority and so on. And it's very important because what we want to see is more institutional capital coming into markets like Africa. And the pace, we are seeing already some good signs of success, but the pace needs to be accelerated. So whether you're talking about first loss, de-risking capital guarantees, or project development, which we do in-house, but we need obviously to scale that. We see a lot of opportunities to structure more vehicles in the fashion in which we have structured the Infrastructure Climate Resilient Fund. Right now we're talking about grain industrialization fund. We're thinking about a critical mineral fund. And I think blended finance can be a key enabler in that sense. And I would like to end because the perception of risk is a key issue in emerging markets. Take Africa, where typically investors are reluctant to go because the sovereigns in Africa are in majority not investment grade. But when you look at actual data, a study by Moody's from the 80s to the early 2020s, you'll be surprised that Africa had the second lowest default risk, just about 2% behind the Middle East, and this compared to 4 to 7% respectively in Europe and North America. So that's really the challenge we have today as we seek to empower more emerging economies and African economies to low carbon and resilient pathways, is to continuously structure such opportunities with partners like GGI and eventually be instrumental in shifting not the billions but the trillions.
Thank you. Good comments, and indeed from billions to trillions. Male, we're running out of time. That's partly because I took too much time at the beginning, so I'll render my concluding remarks and give you the time to give the closing comments, particularly with the perspective from Africa. How do your African member countries look at the Belt and Road Initiative, listening to the panel here?
That's fine. I think from the member state perspective, they're quite excited about seeing the opportunity to partner with China. And the reason behind is that they're seeing two things. One is having access to finance, and second, also having access to the technology. Access to finance, when you look for Africa, they need 100 billion per year to fix the gap. And when you look at in details, only 10% of those projects come to the end of time of closing. So 9% need project preparation and support. So they're seeking support from the different GTI and see also the opportunity to tap to that window. And that trillion on the BRI also is quite important for them. That's one. Second, there's a large, let's say, learning curve from their perspective, in a sense that when they partner with China, they will also reduce that by having new technology, especially when it's come to electric buses, car, but also on the renewable energy as well, with the cheaper price. In the small project you mentioned, they're also quite looking about that, how they can start small, build the models and scaling up. And that's really what they're looking for. And they are quite excited from the different member states to really starting this partnership, and how they also exchange those knowledge from the different member countries within GGI. And that's what powerful is our network. So if one country start and build the model, we easily can be scaling up other countries. In a nutshell, $1 invest in GGI will help to leverage $15. That's the closing. Frank.
Thank you, Malik. I knew I could count on you to give some great closing remarks from an African perspective, but I think it also summed up the session very nicely. We had some great panel members who I think both from the perspective of China and the Belt and Road and from our member countries, we realize there are challenges, as there are always, but I think predominantly we see opportunities for indeed those smaller, beautiful projects, and building on the earlier infrastructure projects to see a growing portfolio of green projects. But yes, they need solid technical support, solid feasibility studies for organizations like the Silk Road Fund and others to make those investment decisions. And as GGI, we're keen to support that where we can. So thank you very much, members of the panel, both long distance, Eli, and here in the room, Ambassador, and I'm Devon, I'm Drew, Patrick, Mala. Thank you very much. Thank you.